Charlotte was just putting her camera to her face to document this strange machine when she felt a sudden push on her back. The shove was strong enough to force the woman onto the conveyor belt, which started moving immediately. "What the hell?" Charlotte screamed as she turned around just in time to see a metallic hand where she had just been standing. Before Charlotte could process that image or recover her balance, she found the conveyor belt going around a corner and taking the hand out of view. It was moving fast enough that Charlotte was unable to scramble back the way she came, and when the belt tilted downwards, Charlotte tumbled further down. No. The camera that had all of Charlotte's evidence suddenly slipped out of her grip and it fell to the side of the belt. There goes the evidence she had. When the belt finally leveled off, Charlotte hit the back of her head on the hard surface below her and was temporarily dazed. She was traveling feet first along the conveyor, and before she could regain her senses, she saw a much bigger machine in front of her. Wait, Charlotte tried to get off the belt, but in her slowed state she was unable to move in time and she was taken into the large machine where the belt finally stopped. A small door closed behind Charlotte's head and she was totally encased in the machine with little room to move. There was roughly a couple of feet of room each side of the journalist to move. Hell dash! Charlotte started calling for help as panic overwhelmed her, but she was cut off almost immediately. A pole rapidly extended down from the top of the machine and quickly pushed a pacifier into Charlotte's mouth. The latex teat was huge and filled her mouth to effectively silence her. It was strapped to her head by what felt like a leather belt that wrapped around the back of her head. Charlotte's eyes flew wide and she breathed heavily as a screen above her head suddenly switched on. What was happening here? Hello. An overly cheerful young woman was looking at the camera and waving. "You have been selected by Stork Industries to take part in our adoption program." Charlotte tried to hammer on the door by her head to get out of the machine, but it wouldn't budge. She was panicking now, utterly trapped inside whatever was happening and becoming part of the process she was here to investigate. She had so little room to maneuver, the machine made her feel like she was in a coffin. "We are sure you are very excited about the coming opportunity." The woman on the screen continued with her fake smile, "The chance to make other people very happy. The chance to bring joy to those who will love you." Charlotte was left frozen by these terrifying assumptions. She hadn't volunteered for any of this, none of the people in the cage had volunteered for this. Charlotte felt her mind feeling cloudy and her muscles growing weaker. She was alert but found that resisting was getting harder. "Right now we are releasing a relaxing gas into the air around you. We know that despite your excitement these can be scary first steps. In a few moments the machine around you will start the process of preparing you for your new life. Stork Industries wishes you the best of luck in all your future endeavors." The woman on the screen concluded and the screen faded to black with the woman waving and smiling toothily. After a few moments of silence, Charlotte could hear and feel the machine around her starting to hum and vibrate slightly. Charlotte wanted to punch her way out of the machine, but the gas that was silently surrounding her was forcing the young woman to lay still. Charlotte was a scared spectator to the things that were happening to her, and as the vibrating and humming grew more intense she closed her eyes in fear of what might happen. Charlotte felt her clothes suddenly loosen, and when she opened her eyes she was shocked to see her clothes dropping off of her. They had all been cut open, everything from her black sweater to her underwear. She was left completely naked. Her trembling body embarrassingly exposed as the tattered remnants of her clothes fell the ground around her. A tube opened to the side of Charlotte and she felt a strong suction as her clothes were sucked away. She was left naked and alone inside this scary-looking capsule, and despite feeling overwhelmingly panicked, Charlotte could do nothing except get taken for the ride. The conveyor belt moved as the end of the capsule nearest Charlotte's feet opened up. She felt herself moving down the belt before stopping again. Charlotte couldn't raise her head, she wanted to, but her muscles just wouldn't respond. "Time to dress you appropriately." Charlotte heard a strange female voice from by her feet. It sounded almost like an alien. They said the right words, but it sounded so strange that they couldn't possibly have come from a human mouth. Charlotte felt her legs get lifted up and folded back against the cold metal of the machine. She could feel something cold and stiff holding her legs in that position. She could see a hand. She guessed it was supposed to be a hand at least. The metal claws looked more like the sort of thing you saw in an arcade cabinet than something at the end of an arm. What? Charlotte tried to speak but could barely whisper. Charlotte felt her legs get lowered, but something was different. Instead of the hard rubber conveyor belt, she now felt some very soft padding. It was as if someone had placed a small pillow underneath her butt. It was certainly more comfortable than the conveyor, at least. Charlotte still couldn't see who or what was doing this. Whilst her lower half was outside the tight confines of the machine, her upper half was still inside and her view was extremely obstructed. It was only as Charlotte felt the cushion pulled up between her legs that she realized what it was. Stop! What's going on? Charlotte's strength was slowly started to return, but her weak leg kicking wasn't able to hinder what was happening. The front of the padded material was pulled up and smoothed over Charlotte's tummy. It felt bulky and much thicker than the underwear that Charlotte was used to. Any doubt in her mind melted away as it was confirmed what she was being dressed in. A diaper. Charlotte whined, "No. I don't want that. Give me proper clothes and let me go." If anything could hear the girl's impassioned claims for freedom, they weren't moved to help as Charlotte heard tapes being pulled. The diaper, there could be little doubt that it was anything else, was pulled tightly around Charlotte's hips, and the young reporter felt the tapes pushed against the front of the diaper. There was a momentary pause where Charlotte could move slightly and heard a distinct crinkle coming from her crotch. She felt tears prickling her eyes as she fretted about what was going to happen next. For the first time she regretted her natural curiosity. Something that had been very useful as a journalist had now become a curse. Charlotte felt herself being pulled down the conveyor again, and finally she emerged fully from the claustrophobic machine. "What the hell?" Charlotte exclaimed as her eyes adjusted to the more brightly lit room that she had been pulled into. The room was a huge nursery. Charlotte had worked in a daycare whilst in high school for some extra shopping money, and this room was like a giant version of what she had worked in. She could clearly see the changing table, the crib, and seemingly endless amounts of toys, teddy bears, and other baby paraphernalia. It was surreal to suddenly go from the espionage mission to this setting.